It was and still is one of the biggest games in history. It holds 6 Guinness World Records, and its community is larger than the population of some entire countries. It predates World of Warcraft and the Elder Scrolls series, having been around for over 15 years, 12 of which I have played. But RuneScape has a dark side. There's a lot about the game, and a lot of events that happened within it, that nobody really knows about. Some of it was downright terrifying. I apologize for the informal typos. I actually wrote this in Sublime during a lunch break. But if you're a serious gamer, this is going to mess with you. There was, of course, the obvious creepy stuff. For a game that's so unrewarding and had such bad graphics, people sure loved wasting their lives on it. It was one of the first games people binged on to unhealthy levels, and it's actually even led to a few instances where players took their own lives. Because the game provided a very good player-to-player chat interface, it was a very social game. I remember RuneScape as the place where I actually learned chat lingo for the first time. LOL, ROAFL, LMAO, etc. One of the lesser-known and disturbing results of this, as with other similar games, was that it provided an opportunity for predators to find potential victims. We know it all too well today. Some creep makes a character, starts talking to someone in-game, and pulls the classic catfish. The disturbing thing about this with RuneScape was it came out when catfishing was relatively new, and a lot of younger kids played the game. At the time, RuneScape was a very good way to communicate without your parents being able to see it. I know this because I myself used it to communicate with other kids I sold stuff to in high school. Mom went through my phone all day long, but she never thought to look in my RuneScape PMs. But there was also some really creepy stuff about the game itself. One thing you have to remember is the game is huge for something of its time. When you're talking about a huge multiplayer game where you do a huge variety of stuff, today most people think of Grand Theft Auto 5. But back in the early 2000s, it was RuneScape. There are places in the game world that get such little traffic, it's estimated that only 200 players have set foot in the most remote area. I fell in love with it the first time I played. But I wasn't one of the dorks who got immersed in the quests or raced each other to reach 99 fishing. I was a scum of the earth PKer, player killer. That's somebody who spent most of their time in an area called the wilderness, attacking and robbing other players. The reason I say scum of the earth is instead of fighting other PKers, I sought out players deeper in the wilderness who were there trying to finish quests or mine resources and killed them for loot. I was a pretty mean kid. And I liked imagining some dweeb raging after I ice-blitzed him back to Lumbridge. I'm not going to tell you my username, but I used to YouTube with iMahatma and can be seen in many of his classic P-King videos. I was also one of the first members of the Mayhem Makers clan he started. A lot of people think he's Indian, but he's actually from Canada, if I remember correctly. So when I say I spent a lot of time in the Wildie, I mean a lot. I saw it in 2005. It was only visible to us for a few months before Jagex got rid of it. I have no idea how long it had been in the game before that. Maybe since RS2 came out. Nobody knows. I have never heard anything on the internet about it, and I'm one of probably only 20 people who have seen it. I still don't really understand what it was. I got a PM from a friend that said he found something in the far eastern part of the Wildie in about level 20. He PM'd 4 of us about it. Mahatma and I were on bad terms during this time. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, "Holy crap, you guys have to see this." We all met up in the East Varick Bank and made it there quickly. The way he told it, he had followed some guy with a flashy suit of Barrow's armor deep into the trees below the lesser demons. He said the guy came to a small rock and disappeared. Apparently, he reappeared about 15 minutes later in the same place, and he was able to kill the dude. He tried PMing the guy, but he wouldn't respond. It was really hard to actually get far enough into the trees to see the rock, but even harder still to get our characters in range of it. It was in an area where it would have been impossible to see from any angle outside the trees. We tried using all sorts of items with it. Nothing worked. We even risked a party hat and a Santa hat trying to make the rock teleport us to wherever it took the dude in full Virix. We tried a lot of things, including every emote in front of and behind the rock. It took us a week of trying before we discovered that you had to use 10 million coins with the rock to get in. It was sketchy to be in the wilderness with that much gold, but we had to know. The scene in there was nothing short of insane. The walls were brown, sort of like the Taverley dungeon. The front wall was a screen, and it was playing a pattern of cannibal holocaust, and what we later found out was Forbidden Files by Jean-Teddy Philippe, a French mockumentary. The other walls were covered with usernames written in red. We tried to look them up on the high scores, but they were all either deleted accounts or just weren't featured in the high scores. There was a girl NPC in the small room. She was very detailed for RuneScape. When we noticed the shoulder holsters she was wearing and the ponytail, we realized it was Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. If you talked to her, she asked, "What's the password?" Then a text box would pop up. Try as we might, we couldn't guess the password, and all of our mediocre hacking skills yielded nothing either. The frustrating part was, once you guessed wrong, she would kick you and kill you in one hit. If you stayed in there longer than about 15 minutes, this gut-wrenching screech would start, and you would have to turn your speakers off because it would keep playing even after you turned all audio off in the game. We quietly consulted a few different forums. Nobody was any help until we brought it to 4chan, and after being called names for playing RuneScape, one guy commented that he knew what it was. He alleged this game area contained some kind of disturbing video collection one of the developers or mods had hidden there for some reason. According to him, the other Jagex staff didn't know about the secret rooms. That's right, I said rooms as in plural. He linked us to a post on how to use the rooms in the SA forums. Something awful. The post is gone now, but it had almost no traffic and was one page that had simple instructions. It actually included 4 different passwords, which leads me to believe there were more rooms at one time. We tried PCAB00 with 2 zeros. It worked. You could make the screen play any video from the list of about 400. They were all horrible. It included various disturbing videos and a few filmed gang executions from what looked like the 80s. Only 3 of us actually were in there and watched some of it. It was surreal. You literally watched your RuneScape character watch the screen as you did. It was fascinating. Then some idiot messed us up and posted a thread about it in the official RS forums. The rock was gone the next time we went there. Either Jagex moved it or deleted it. We debated endlessly on what it was, and if there was more stuff like it in the game. We tried to figure out which developer made it. A lot of people suspected it might have been a mod instead of a developer because they would have seen it during production. But we unanimously agreed that it had to have been a Jagex staff member. Honestly, from what I know about people that actually work for Jagex, I'm convinced they had to have known about it at some level the whole time because of how strict they are about hacking. If anything, they must have known somebody was messing with the original code. I've never heard of any successful mods being done on RuneScape, but I have no idea. It was pretty creepy though, and I've talked to a lot of people who've played the game for a long time and had never heard of what we called picture rooms. Yes, if you're wondering, we did get the idea from Code Monkeys, but for all we know, according to the timeline, they might have copied the term from us. I posted about it on RuneHQ a few years later, and the few people that knew said there were indeed more rooms at one point. They apparently had different themes, but the rooms and everything else were all eventually dealt with before the death of RuneScape in 2007. It has even been said stuff like this was why it happened. I would like to add I have a huge amount of respect for Andrew and Modash, and all the people at Jagex who fought hard to make RuneScape a thing. But there were also apparently some others who did more sinister things within our favorite game.